Right, so hello indie people, hope you're doing well. Basically this is a review of Sia's film Music, so basically you don't have to go and watch it. Basically because I am an autistic person, the film is about, the representation of autism. I feel that it is not only my duty to talk about this film and watch it for myself to share my thoughts, but it's also important to, see the whole thing and give my thoughts on it based on seeing the whole thing. And actually, if you don't believe that I am autistic or anything, there's my badge. There you go, there is my badge. But, sorry for the sarcasm, but if you do enjoy, knowing more about autism, learning from the autistic experience, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. In November 2020, Sia put out the teaser trailer for Music. The autistic community, including myself, I did a video on it. I did a couple of videos on the whole topic actually, I'll leave those down below. But we were concerned, we were sharing our concerns and also just voicing our opinions that, when it comes to, films like this where they have an autistic character, it should be played by an autistic actor or actress. This is because when there are autistic characters in films and TV, it's basically non-autistic people trying to act autistic. And even though it is acting, it's not the same as coming from someone who has that experience or that knowledge, and can actually add or potentially add a lot more value to the character and to the portrayal. But I don't think Sia saw it that way because her tweets were just vicious and there was just a load of them saying, oh, you're a bad actor, oh, I had this and this person, and all of this stuff. I had two autistic people consulting the entire time, blah de blah de blah. Because Sia was tweeting back at people and, trying to defend, what she was doing, it blew up to exponential proportions, especially for the autistic community. And recently it's become even more of a talking point because not only has this film been nominated for 2 Golden Globes, Best Picture and Best Actress being Kate Hudson, it recently came out that there were restraint scenes put into this film, which I will be talking about the restraint scenes, but I'll make sure I try to put a trigger warning just in case people are triggered by it, because restraints are no joke. Are no joke whatsoever. Actually, by this point, knowing this news in late January, we still had Sia being here in her own little world, being like, oh, I did the right thing, or oh, I got 100% from a, parents organization, all of this stuff, And then she apologised. Now, I haven't talked about the apology or, the Golden Globe nomination because I wanted to save it for the review. Firstly, the apology came far too late. The fact that, people, multiple people, thousands, tens of thousands of people were saying over and over, there should have been accommodations, for the autistic actor or actress, whoever, to play the role. You obviously went for Maddie, that is obviously Sia's choice, and, they do have a close working relationship, even though I personally think it's really, really weird. That's just my personal opinion, but, she made her choice, and the Golden Globe nomination is just a joke. I'm sorry, but, I understand that autism in film is a powerful topic, and people can really resonate with it, especially if they have it themselves, or parents have kids with autism and things. I do fully understand it. It just really shows just a lack of awareness that companies like the Golden Globes and things like that have, and for me it shows how little they care about true representation or rightful representation, in my opinion. So yeah, the nominations are just a joke, in my opinion. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole backstory on the situation. Like I say, I'll leave the videos that I did down below, and also the article where Sia apologizes, including other people's videos. So people like the Aspie World, Dan, who covered the story multiple times, Princess Aspien, who gave her thoughts, Paige, who also gave her thoughts, just to give you guys more information from people who have the condition and have real experiences. So with that really complicated and convoluted backstory out of the way, you know, let's get into this film review, you know, of Sia's film Music. Basically, you know, I thought it was going to be about, you know, the protagonist's music being not necessarily the main point of the film, but, you know, at least having involvement. But to be honest, it wasn't even about music, you know, the autistic character. It was mainly about her half-sister, Zoo, who was played by Kate Hudson. Zoo becomes music's caretaker after, you know, their grandmother died. The grandmother looked after music, and basically Zoo, who is pretty much the entire focus of this film. Basically, like, this film is like Zoo's road of redemption story throughout the course of the film. Zoo is a drug dealer slash alcoholic, and basically only comes back, you know, after finding out the grandmother's dead, because, you know, she thought she was going to run into money to pay off her debts and all of this other stuff. Turns out that's not the case, and basically becomes a caregiver to Music. To be quite honest with you guys, Music really is nothing more than a plot device throughout the entire course of this film for Zoo to basically bounce off of, you know, and help Zoo along the way to, you know, make herself redeemable. And, you know, there becomes a point where Zoo basically tries to put Music into a home because she can't take care of Music, and Zoo falls off the wagon. You know, she has a drink, and, you know, she is just so in over her head, you know, emotionally and just all of this other stuff, that she, you know, was close to putting Music in a home, until a sweet moment where Music, you know, touched Zoo's hand, and pretty much everything was fine after that. And this kind of plot, this kind of hero's plot, where you have, I don't know, the person like Zoo, you know, who's downbeaten and just had all this stuff happen, you know, comes into contact with a disabled person who, you know, helps them see the light, see the error of their ways. And then by the end of it, you know, this character who you probably hated at the beginning of the film, you know, becomes someone who is, you know, endearing and just, oh my god, they've done such an incredible thing, or, oh, they, you know, all of this sort of stuff, which has been done time and time again, the same kinds of tropes, the same just bogus, just story that, you know, happens when you know, include disabled characters in these films. And to be honest with the character Music, there just wasn't any progression. She was just kind of there, and it just didn't move forward in any way with Music. It was obvious that Zoo was going to be the character that was, you know, the redeeming character throughout the film. And also we had Ebo, you know, Zoo's eventual love interest in the film. Like, to be honest, I quite liked Ebo, I must be honest. There's certain moments where I honestly was cringing at the end of my seat, but the general character arc that he had, I actually quite liked. And now I'm going to get into what I liked and the other things which you can kind of tell that I did not necessarily like about this film. The one thing that I liked, and it was such a small moment in the film that I think people may have missed it, but I wished more was done about this point, or there was actual, like, films done on this point. Basically, Ebo, after the first restraint scene, but he was saying that he had a brother like Music, and I thought that was really interesting. And then they got into, well, Ebo got into the fact that his brother died, and that people in his country think that people like Music are seen as a curse. And just for full transparency, Ebo in the film is an African man, you know, came over from America, from Senegal I think it was, but that's besides the point. You know, it shows that, you know, in other cultures autism is seen as a bad thing, and I liked that, not because I liked the fact that, you know, this is a thing that happens, but I liked that Sia chose to put this in, because stuff like that is important, and, you know, people need to be aware of this sort of thing, that, you know, yes, autism is stigmatized, you know, in most places, but you know, it can be fatal in some places, in some parts of the world. To me, that little nugget that I quite liked, I think, you know, if it was taken further, maybe not in this film, but in like a different film or like a documentary style thing, you know, looking at autism in different cultures, I think it'd be incredibly eye-opening to see something like that, and I would love if someone did that. But anyway, we're gonna get on to the points that I did not like, and there's quite a few, to be honest. The trigger warning, you know, for the restraint scenes. Basically in the article, the BBC article, where Sia was talking about the restraint scenes and how they would be removed from future printings of the film, she was on about having a trigger warning at the beginning of the film. For me, if you need a trigger warning, doesn't that, I don't know, ring alarm bells? Just saying, it's alarming. But anyway, she said she was going to have trigger warnings. The copy which I saw did not have any trigger warnings whatsoever. And the whole reason why we're talking about trigger warnings is because of the restraint scenes in the film. Skip to this time code if you don't want to hear any of this part. But basically, there are 2 restraint scenes in this film, and I was horrified. I heard that there were restraint scenes. Obviously people online had been talking about it, but I did not believe how bad, how ridiculous these restraint scenes were. So first 20 minutes of the film, music's having a meltdown because, you know, everything's changed. Her grandma's just died. Zoo's just being, you know, her just obnoxious self in, you know, the first few moments of the film. She starts having a meltdown, hitting herself, and Ebo comes to the house and basically sees music having a meltdown, then proceeds to pick her up, and then proceeds to say, "I'm going to crush you." And then Ebo proceeds to put her on her back, put his body weight on top of her, pins her down with his legs, and puts her arms behind like her head and pinned down by the wrists. And then he proceeds to say, "I'm crushing her with my love. I am crushing her with my love." I am sorry, but how is that okay, first of all? First, he's showing a restraint scene like that, because this was the argument I was trying to make with my fiance, you know, by basically showing restraint scenes, you know, and firstly not having a trigger warning, you know, people, you know, may have been restrained in the past, and, you know, it's not nice being restrained. Let's just put it that way. But then also to say things like, "I'm crushing her with my love," is just gross. It is disgusting. It is just, I heard that, I paused the film, I had to take a 5-minute break. I was annoyed. Like, people who watch my videos, you know, I hope know that I don't really get annoyed. I don't really get like angry or anything, but I was annoyed. I was so angry because it was just like, you know, you're saying, "Oh, I'm crushing her with my love," as if, you know, you're doing her a service by, you know, pinning her down. You know, just restraints in general, and the restraints that were being shown in this film have killed people, have killed autistic people. So to firstly kind of showcase that and, you know, not put a trigger warning is quite frankly irresponsible, and I don't know how. I have no idea. Who the heck gave the all clear for this? Seriously, who gave the all clear for this? Because this is just not okay. This is just disgusting, vile, and, you know, it gets even better. There was a second restraint scene, not 20 minutes later, where basically Ebo was trying to teach Zoo how to restrain music. In the middle of a park. In the middle of a freaking park. And, you know, it was really funny. It was really funny watching these restraint scenes because, well, not funny to laugh at. Clearly I'm not happy about it. But, you know, Zoo was concerned, saying, you know, "Oh, you're not going to hurt her, blah, blah, blah." And then 20 minutes into the film, she's full-blown restraining music, like, you know, that whole thing at the beginning did not happen. But it's not okay. I don't endorse it. And like I say, autistic people specifically have died because of this. like just restraint in general, but in the way that, you know, Ebo and Zoo were restraining music. Like, people have died because of it. So in terms of that, not happy. And quite frankly, the film endorses restraining people, which is not okay. It's 2021, you know, if you think it's okay to, you know, the first thing that you do to try and calm an autistic person down from, you know, having a meltdown is restraining people, just no. But we're going to move over to the accessibility of the film in general now. It's kind of clear to me that, you know, music in general is not made for the autistic audience. You know, it's got an autistic character, but it's obviously not made for an autistic audience based on, you know, some of the things that we've already talked about. And also, one of the reasons why I've come to this conclusion is because of the amount of bright colours in the film, strobe lighting, all of these sorts of things. Now, just to very quickly go over this, there are autistic people who also experience epilepsy. And, you know, for me personally, I don't have epilepsy, but even for me, some of the scenes, it's mainly like the music montagey kind of scene where Maddie Ziegler dances and stuff. The colours were so bright and the strobe lighting was quite intense that, you know, I had to walk away one or two times just because of how intense some of the scenes were. Like, I had to turn down the brightness of my laptop when I was watching it. So from that aspect, it's not really accessible, and people may say, you know, oh, it's just a film, get over it. But, you know, when something about autism comes up, you know, it's going to pique the interests of the people in that community. I mean, I think, you know, me obviously talking about, you know, the backlash from the film and the amount of people that are still talking about this film, I think it just shows that whenever there's something about autism coming up or whatever, there's going to be interest from people of that community. And, you know, the film is not made really for the people of that community. It's evidently clear. And then the other point of this review that I wanted to talk about, Maddie Ziegler. So basically, I refrained from talking about Maddie Ziegler and her performance up until this point because, again, I wanted to see the whole thing and I didn't want people coming after me saying, oh, you need to watch the whole thing, blah, 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 all of that stuff. Now I'm going to talk about it. First of all, anyone who blames Maddie directly, just no. Yes, I personally think, in my own opinion, the portrayal is cringe. It is basically mockery, and I'll get into my points of view about why I think that way in a moment. But, you know, I do not blame Maddie, and, you know, if people push hate towards her way, I don't endorse that, and I'm not going to endorse it here. So don't send hate to Maddie because it's unfair. First of all, you know, she was younger when the film was made, you know, between the ages of, you know, 14 upwards. I think Sia was a contributor to this, you know, basically teaching Maddie, you know, how to be autistic, essentially, you know. And even Maddie herself, I'll try and leave the interview down below because it was quite interesting. Maddie was obviously saying that, you know, she kind of knew that people were either going to love or hate the film, and, you know, she was worried about how people would think. Like I say, the performance was not great. Just the portrayal of, you know, Music, the autistic character, was not great in my opinion, and I personally feel it was a mockery of kind of non-verbal, non-speaking autistic people. And I must be honest, I would be really interested to know from non-speaking autistic people what they actually think of just this character, because honestly the movements and the gestures and all of that sort of stuff just felt incredibly exaggerated, that it came across as mockery. Now, you know, there are autistic people who do move like music and, you know, do gestures like music and, you know, have meltdowns like music. It's hard to describe, but, you know, when autistic people move like music does, you know, I have met, you know, autistic people, you know, like music, you know, who are non-speaking and, you know, do all of the things, you know, verbally stim and, you know, all of this sort of stuff. You know, it's natural. They are doing it because, you know, it is what they need to do. But quite honestly, the way that Maddie was doing it, it was honestly a bad caricature. It was just really awful. I felt like I had a knot in my stomach just watching Maddie just do, you know, moving about. It just was icky. It was just you know, I can't describe it any other way than just But like I say, I don't blame Maddie for, you know, the character or anything like that. The way she played the character, quite honestly, it was down to Sia. Just poor research. Apparently she did 3 years of research. Where was it? And honestly, not enough involvement from the autistic community, as previously mentioned. And there will be people who say, you know, oh, it's just acting. Maddie was just acting a part like, you know, any other character in film or TV or whatever. You know, you shouldn't be so sensitive about it. You know, it's just actors acting. Comments like that, I've seen a lot of them, and quite honestly, comments like that are the reason why I keep going as a content creator, talking about my autistic experiences, talking about autism, and, you know, trying to be a positive influence. Comments like that, because yes, it is an actor acting a part, but honestly, you don't understand. You know, people who have that kind of mentality would say, it's actors just acting, you know, get over it. Yes, it's an actor acting a part, but, you know, it's a part, you know, it's an autistic part, you know, it's an autistic character. And that character, you know, represents a community of people. You know, regardless of whether it was Sia's intention or not to do that, it's still a representation of a community of people. And also the film is a representation of autism. To see restraint scenes, to see just all the negativity that's been brought on by Sia, and just, you know, just the clear lack of research, and also just the endorsements of basically ableism at this point, you know, from like the Golden Globes and, you know, just all of this stuff. It's hurtful for the autistic community. It's so damning. You know, there was still no involvement from the autistic community. You know, there may have been some, but, you know, there was not enough consultation, not enough good research done, not enough thorough research done, and Sia has admitted this herself in the BBC article, which is linked down below. You know, there was just a lot of problems with this film in general, from start, pretty much from the controversy that began in November to now. I do not recommend this film to anyone, let alone autistic people, because it's just bad for all of the reasons that I've said during the course of this review. That is my full review of Sia's film Music. If you've watched it, you know, what did you think of the film? Let me know down below. But if you enjoyed this video, like what I'm trying to do, like what I'm trying to do with the channel, just all of that stuff, you know, try to be a positive influence in the autistic community, hit me one of those, you know, click that thumbs up down there. It would be honestly really appreciated. And if you want to see more videos about autism, you know, from my experiences and stuff, there's a ton of videos in playlists down below. And I don't know, click the subscribe button, share this if you know, really agree with it and want people to know from the autistic point of view what they think of this film. You know, make sure you share it. It would be really appreciated, just any support that you are willing to give. But until next time, stay you, stay indie, and I will see you next week with a brand new video. Take care. I am so glad that this is done.